Well, hey there, friends. Hey, welcome to another episode. So yeah, we're going to talk about the Book of Mormon and some of the, the DNA testing. You see that in a lot of topic of discussion. People trying to disprove the Book of Mormon using, the DNA testing and stuff like that. It seems to be coming up quite a bit lately. I had a guy when I was up protesting by East High there. When I crossed over the street, there was a guy over there that he looked like a liberal professor the way he's dressed. But after I got to talk to him, he started telling me that he grew up LDS and raised his family LDS, but was recently left the church because DNA disproving that it's all false and stuff like that. And I've heard the same thing from my this guy I'm renting a room from right now. He's made the same argument among other arguments about Book of Mormon being false because of DNA disproving it and stuff. So, and to me that's terrifying. That is terrifying. And I'll explain why I think that's terrifying. But that's like when that's when communism is at the door. So socialism is at the door when you hear traditional beliefs that we have as Christians and stuff being replaced by secularism and stuff like that. That it's almost like that noise, a tub being full of water, you go to pull that stopper and you can hear that sucking noise, all the water being flushed away. Yeah, and that would represent all of us being flushed away. That's grounds for genocide on national level and stuff like that. Nations being destroyed. But I really liked what President Nelson said in General Conference, about when you take Jesus Christ out of the name of the church, it's a victory for Satan. And it's the same thing when you take Jesus Christ divinity out of a person, that's going to be a victory for Satan too. And the whole point of making a covenant, making a covenant, which brings us into the Abrahamic covenant to be God's people and stuff, is to make a covenant with Jesus. So, but you guys, my perspective, I know are pretty intense sometimes, but this perspective from what would be just awakened person. I had my awakening probably about 10 years ago, and you just look at things differently after you've been through an awakening, and this is where we're all supposed to be, you guys. I mean, we're going at times where we all have to be at the optimal level. We have to awaken ourselves, but to compare it to the Great Awakening that took place in pre-colonial times. The awakening, you had the pre-awakening, and how was religion used in the pre-awakening? Religion was just dogmatic. It was more ceremonial. It was indoctrination. In the medieval European medieval churches, it's used to indoctrinate people, and as a result, you had hundreds of years they're called Dark Ages for a reason. They're full of tyranny, despotism, bloodshed. Just all kinds of corruption. You had the Spanish Inquisition, the Crusades. Just people were just ravaged back then. So, anyways, but yeah, that's what point was I trying to get at, you guys? Yeah. So yeah, that's the difference between, and then on the other side of that coin, on the other side of the awakening. People were looking for, on the other side of enlightenment, you had liberation, freedom. So you have, captivity and death on the one hand, and liberation on the other hand. Those two polar opposites. Religion and that's what we want is enlightenment. So yeah, let's make a Bible basis for this argument. About the Indians being, for those of you that might be incredulous about the Book of Mormon, I mean, let's take a look at the Bible. Let's in Genesis, I believe it's chapter 12. Talks about the covenant that God made with Abraham, and that was that through his posterity, that he would be blessed, and that through his posterity all the nations of the earth would be blessed as well. Through his children, his posterity would be like the stars of the sky and the sands of the sea, and all the nations of the earth would be blessed through his posterity. That would have to include me and you as well. I mean, we're all part of that Abrahamic covenant. So when we see, this was 2,000 years BC when he got this promise from God, or maybe even more. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But then it was 600 BC, several hundred years later, that we see fulfillment of this. That the Jews actually became a cursed people because we can read about Jerusalem becoming a wicked city and being destroyed and stuff, and a lot of the Jews were carried away captive by Babylon, and then a lot of them were just scattered and smitten. They were hissing the byword amongst nations and stuff, and they were cursed. It's funny because they were a cursed people, just the opposite of what the blessing that he gave to Abraham, that they would be a blessed people for all the nations of the earth. But yeah, by this point in history, they became wicked, and they were a cursed people, but yet they were scattered and smitten, throughout all the nations of the earth. Kind of interesting, but then eventually they would have to become a blessing and bring that enlightenment if we're all going to be saved, I think. So yeah, we can. The Bible basis for that argument. Well, naturally, you can almost assume if they, it says they were scattered and smitten throughout all the earth. You would think, Christian person, you think God would be mindful of the other continent. It doesn't say that they came to the Americas, but one would almost take that leap of faith and believe that they came to the Americas as well. Why would God exclude those people in the Americas for being his people and stuff? Because yeah, his people, his blood would have to mix with all the nations of the earth. So yeah, that's the Abrahamic covenant. We can talk about King James. We talked about the pre-awakening. King James, the flip sides of two coin. You could say that he, most people, most individuals that come from a monarchy, you can assume are, from that lineage of Abraham. But you can see, the cursed and blessed side of his seed. And that's really interesting. When he was king there in England, he was one of the most wicked kings there ever was. He's the one that brought about the purging of all the Christians and Protestants from England and so forth and stuff like that. And it was responsible for just killing tens of thousands of people, and especially witches, or people that were stereotyped as witches. They're probably just nonconformists and heretics and all that kind of thing. And a lot of these people, fled England. I mean, just completely purged of anyone that would be perceived as heretic, I guess. And a lot of those people end up here in America. But what do they find here in America? They found his published Bible. They read the recently published King James Bible, where before it was written in Latin and used to just indoctrinate people. Now they all had a lot of them had their personal copies, published copies of the Book of Mormon, of the Bible, that they're able to use. The same passages of Scripture that were used to indoctrinate them now became for them just enlightenment, which resulted in the revolution. So you can see, the Bible kind of serving as a curse. How religion can serve as a curse in our lives, but then on the other hand, it's the very thing that saved them. And the same thing with King James, him being you could say that he was part of that cursed lineage as well, but But then he was able to, because of his efforts, he became a blessing to the nations. That's something that we still herald today as the the King James Bible, the common Bible that we all read amongst all denominations and stuff. So and then now I want to talk about the rise of statism. The statism, we talk about freedom, then you have the rise of statism. This is where they take two ideologies, where today, and I've talked about this before. Pure doctrine of Jesus Christ teaches us that that we're all in that category of being God's people. Whether literally or in our religion we teach per person is baptized, they become part of the elect as well, part of the family of Abraham. So there's no one that is excluded. But then on the other hand, when you have statism, where you have people like Hitler teaching the superior race, there's God has his chosen people, and they're that it's just an elite exclusive club, and we saw that with the beginning of America in the 1800s. You saw the statism teaching manifest destiny, and manifest destiny taught that as Americans it was our destiny to fulfill to take over the entire expanse of the whole American continent. Back then, I think we thought we were going to occupy even Mexico and Canada. It was all going to be ours. But what did we have to accomplish to do that? They manifested to us that we were a superior chosen race, and because of that, we were entitled to Indian lands, because for some reason we didn't recognize that they were in fact God's people. They could have been descendants of part of that Abrahamic covenant and stuff like that. They were stereotyped as heathens and savages. And so that's where it gets scary. We're able to witness the genocide of entire nations, because of the two polar opposites. What represents a pure doctrine of Jesus Christ, which is supposed to be a blessing to everyone, all the occupants of the world, as opposed to statism, where there's only one group of people. Back then it was the common man, the common American, the common man, and it was our destiny to take to run everyone off their homelands and occupy all the nations and stuff. So that's the danger of stepping away from what are just pure doctrines of Christ and getting into the realm of secularism, where we start teaching that that these people don't have that spark of divinity with them. They're not. Take the same as taking the Church of Jesus Christ out of the name of churches, out of the name, or taking Jesus Christ out of the name and taking Jesus Christ out of a person. It's like you're almost inviting the Grim Reaper to come to their door. So anyways, and that's all I got, you guys. I hope I'll leave that with you, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks. Bye.